The space around the Kepler system was quiet and cold. Nothing moved except for tiny bits of rock and ice that floated between the planets. Then something changed. A small ship came drifting through the darkness. It moved slowly like a leaf, blown by wind. Smoke came from its back end and sparks flew from broken parts. The ship was small and white with blue marks on its sides. It looked hurt and alone in the big empty space. Fire burned inside through broken windows. The engines made no sound. It was dying. Far away, something much bigger watched. The Dominion's Edge was a warship that belonged to the Zephyrian Empire. It was huge and dark gray, with weapons all over its hull. Red lights blinked along its sides like angry eyes. Inside the ship, General Vexthor stood on the command deck and looked at the small vessel on his screen. General Vexthor was not like any creature from Earth. He stood 8 feet tall and had 4 strong arms. His skin was covered in dark green, scales that shined like metal under the lights. His head was long like a snake with yellow eyes that never blinked. When he opened his mouth, sharp teeth showed in neat rows. Other aliens feared him, and they had good reason to. "What is that thing?" Vexthor asked. His voice was deep and rough, like rocks grinding together. A smaller Zephyrian at a control panel answered quickly. "Unknown ship, sir. We have never seen this design before. It appears to be damaged and drifting." Vexthor moved closer to the big screen. His 4 hands moved over the controls with quick skill. The image of the small ship got bigger. He could see the strange writing on its side, but his computers could not read it. "Where did it come from?" he asked. "The computers show it came from that direction, sir." The young alien pointed toward a small yellow star. "There are planets around that star. Maybe it came from there." Vexthor thought about this. In all his years of war and conquest, he had seen many different kinds of aliens. Some were strong like his own people. Others were smart and built good machines. A few could fly or swim better than anyone else, but he had never seen a ship quite like this one. "Bring it aboard," he said. "I want to see what kind of creature flies in such a weak ship." The Dominion's Edge moved forward like a giant beast hunting small prey. Huge metal arms came out from its belly and grabbed the little ship. The arms were gentle but strong, like a parent picking up a child. Soon the small vessel was inside the big warship's landing bay. Zephyrian soldiers surrounded the captured ship. They wore thick armor and carried energy weapons that glowed blue. Their orders were simple. Capture whatever came out alive, but be ready to kill it if it tried to fight. General Vexthor walked into the landing bay with slow, heavy steps. Each footstep made a loud sound on the metal floor. He looked at the small ship and shook his head. The thing was even more damaged up close. Burns covered its hull, and green liquid dripped from broken pipes. "Open it," he ordered. 2 soldiers used cutting tools to make a hole in the ship's side. Steam and smoke poured out. The smell was strange, like flowers mixed with burning metal. When the air cleared, they could see inside. A figure moved in the darkness. It was small and walked on 2 legs like a Zephyrian, but that was where the similarities ended. The creature that came out was tiny compared to the soldiers around it. It stood only about 6 feet tall and had pale pink skin with no scales or armor. Its arms were thin and it had only 2 of them. Hair grew on top of its head in a brown color. The creature was hurt. It limped as it walked and red liquid ran down its left arm. Its clothes were torn and dirty. When it looked up at General Vexthor, its eyes were blue like water and showed pain and fear. "I am Lieutenant Jake Morrison of the Earth Colonial Defense Force," the creature said. Its voice was soft and high compared to Zephyrian voices. "My ship was damaged in an asteroid field. I was trying to find help." Vexthor stared down at the small being. Earth? He had never heard of this place. Colonial Defense Force? What kind of military would send such a weak creature into space? Jake Morrison was young, maybe 23 Earth years old. He had short brown hair and a face that had not yet learned to hide fear. His uniform was blue and white, similar to his ship's colors. A small device on his chest blinked with a red light. His hands shook slightly as he looked up at the giant aliens around him. "Scan it," Vexthor ordered. A medical officer came forward with a small machine. Lights played over Jake's body while the device made soft, beeping sounds. After a few minutes, the officer looked at his readings and seemed surprised. "Sir, this creature is very weak by our standards. Its bones are thin and light. Its muscles are small. It has no natural weapons or armor. Its home planet must have low gravity and no dangerous predators." Vexthor listened to this report with growing amusement. He had conquered dozens of worlds and defeated hundreds of different species. Most of them put up good fights. Some were stronger than Zephyrians. Others were faster or smarter. But this creature looked like it could barely hurt a child. "How did your people develop space travel?" Vexthor asked Jake directly. Jake straightened up despite his pain. "We learned to work together, sir. We used our minds to solve problems. We never gave up even when things got hard." Several Zephyrian soldiers laughed at this answer. Work together? Use minds? These sounded like excuses that weak creatures made when they could not fight properly. Vexthor walked around Jake slowly, studying him from all sides. The human tried to stand straight and look brave, but his injuries made this difficult. Blood still dripped from his arm, and his left leg could barely hold his weight. "Put it with the other prisoners," Vexthor decided. "I want to study this species more. If they are all this weak, conquering their world will be simple." Guards moved forward to take Jake away. As they did, Jake looked back at General Vexthor. One more time. For just a moment, something flashed in those blue eyes. It was gone so quickly that Vexthor almost missed it. It might have been anger or determination or something else entirely. The guards led Jake through long corridors filled with red light. Other prisoners watched him pass. There were Corvan beast warriors with thick, rocky skin, stellar nomads with silver fur, and blue-scaled Aquarians from the waterworlds. All of them were impressive in their own ways. All of them looked at the small human with pity. Jake was put in a cell with metal walls and a small window. Through the window, he could see stars moving past as the great ship traveled through space. He sat on the hard floor and tried to tend to his wounds with torn pieces of his uniform. General Vexthor returned to his command deck and called up files on new species discoveries. He would add humans to the list of weak races suitable for easy conquest. Their planet, this Earth place, would make a good colony world once its people were removed or enslaved. He looked out at the stars and smiled, showing all his sharp teeth. Tomorrow he would have some fun with the human prisoner. Perhaps he would make it fight in the arena of judgment. His crew would enjoy watching such a pathetic creature try to defend itself. But General Vexthor did not know what he was really dealing with. He had made the same mistake that many others had made throughout history. He looked at Jake Morrison and saw only weakness. He did not see the strength that lay hidden beneath the surface, waiting for the right moment to show itself. 3 days passed in the cold metal prison. Jake Morrison sat in his small cell and watched the stars move by through the tiny window. His wounds were getting better, but they still hurt when he moved. The guards brought him food twice a day. It tasted like metal and plants mixed together, but it kept him alive. Other prisoners sometimes talked to him through the walls. They felt sorry for the small human. A Corvan warrior named Thak told him that General Vexthor liked to make new. Prisoners fight in something called the Arena of Judgment. It was a place where aliens had to prove they were strong enough to live. Many go in, Thak said in his deep, rocky voice. Not all come out. Jake listened, but did not say much back. He spent most of his time thinking and watching the guards. He learned their patterns and counted their weapons. He studied the ship's layout when they moved him to the washing room or the medical bay. Old habits from his military training kept his mind busy. On the 4th day, everything changed. General Vexthor came to the prison level with 6 guards behind him. He stopped at Jake's cell and looked down at the human with yellow eyes that showed amusement. "Today, you will entertain my crew," Vexthor said. His forearms moved as he talked, making gestures that seemed important to his people. "You will fight in the arena of judgment. If you win, you earn the right to live another day. If you lose..." He did not finish the sentence, but his meaning was clear. Jake stood up slowly. His left leg still hurt, but he tried not to show it. What if I refuse to fight? Vexthor laughed, a sound like breaking glass. Then my guards will drag you there anyway, but you will go in already beaten and bleeding. The choice is yours, little human. Jake nodded. I understand. The guards opened his cell and put metal bands around his wrists. The bands were connected by a short chain that let him move his hands, but not very far. They walked him through corridors, filled with excited alien voices. News of the fight had spread through the ship, and everyone wanted to see the weak human try to survive. The arena of judgment was a large round room in the center of the ship. Seats rose up on all sides like a bowl, and they were filled with Zephyrian soldiers. Red lights made everything look like it was covered in blood. The floor was made of hard metal with dark stains that Jake did not want to think about. General Vexthor sat in the biggest chair at the top of the arena. His voice came from speakers all around the room. Soldiers of the Empire, he called out. Today we test a new species. Humans claim to be a space-traveling race, but look at this pathetic example. Place your bets on how long it will last. The crowd roared with laughter and excitement. Voices called out numbers in the Zephyrian language. Most seemed to think Jake would fall in less than 1 minute. Some said 30 seconds. A few cruel voices said 10 seconds. Jake looked around the arena and tried to stay calm. His heart was beating fast, but his breathing was steady. Years of training had taught him to control fear and use it as fuel instead of letting it control him. A gate opened on the other side of the arena. Something big walked out, and the crowd cheered even louder. It was a Corvin, but not like Thak, from the prison. This one was a warrior built for fighting. He stood 7 feet tall and was almost as wide as he was tall. His skin looked like gray stone with cracks running through it. His hands ended in claws that could cut through metal. His name was Grix, and scars covered his body like a map of old battles. Grix had fought in the arena many times before. He had killed creatures much bigger and stronger than the small human who stood across from him. His people were known throughout the galaxy as some of the best fighters. They were born warriors who lived for combat. Look at them together, Vexthor announced. The mighty Corvin against the weak human. This will be over quickly. Jake looked up at Grix and felt very small. The Corvin warrior stared down at him with dark eyes that showed no mercy. Grix flexed his claws and rolled his massive shoulders. He was ready to kill. A loud horn sounded to start the fight. Grix moved forward with surprising speed for something so big. His claws whistled through the air where Jake's head had been a second before. Jake stumbled backward and nearly fell. The crowd laughed and cheered. "Run, little mouse," someone yelled. Jake kept moving backward around the edge of the arena. Grix followed him with heavy steps that shook the metal floor. Every few seconds, the Corvin would swing his claws or try to grab the human. Jake barely got out of the way, each time. To the watching aliens, it looked like Jake was too scared to fight back. He stumbled and rolled and seemed to trip over his own feet. His face showed fear, and sweat ran down his forehead. Several times he fell down and had to scramble, away before Grix could stomp on him. "Pathetic," Vexthor called out. "Is this the best your species can do?" But in the prisoner viewing area, someone watched with different eyes. Captain Lisa Murphy had been captured 2 weeks earlier from another human ship. She was older than Jake, maybe 30 years old, with red hair and green eyes that missed nothing. She knew things about humans that the aliens had not learned yet. Lisa watched Jake's movements carefully. What looked like clumsy fear to the Zephyrians looked like something else to her trained eye. Jake was not just running away randomly. He was moving in patterns, learning the arena, studying his opponent. Every time Grix attacked, Jake learned something new. How fast could the Corvin move? How long did it take him to recover after a big swing? Which direction did he favor when he turned? Jake's stumbling and rolling were real, but they served a purpose beyond just avoiding death. The crowd grew bored as the fight went on. They had expected quick violence, but instead, they saw a scared human running in circles. Some aliens started, calling for Grix to finish it quickly. Grix was getting frustrated too. The little human was fast and slippery, but that just made the game longer. He wanted to end this and claim his victory. He began to attack with more anger and less thought. Jake noticed this change. He had been waiting for Grix to get emotional and make mistakes. Angry fighters were predictable fighters, and predictable fighters could be beaten. After 5 minutes of what looked like a one-sided chase, Jake made his first real mistake. He stumbled and fell near the center of the arena. His ankle turned wrong and he cried out in pain. He tried to get up but fell back down. The crowd roared with excitement. Finally, the end was coming. Grix saw his chance. He raised both clawed hands above his head and charged forward to deliver the killing blow. His feet pounded the metal floor like thunder. Victory was just seconds away. But as Grix brought his claws down toward Jake's helpless form, something changed in the human's eyes. The fear was still there, but now it was mixed with something else. Something that the aliens did not recognize because they had never seen it before in such a small, weak creature. It was the look of a predator who had finished studying its prey. Jake rolled to the side at the last possible second. Grix's claws struck the metal floor with a sound like breaking stone. Sparks flew, and the Corvin's hands stuck in the hard surface for just a moment. That moment was all Jake needed. Years of training kicked in as Jake moved faster than any alien in the arena thought possible. His injured ankle forgotten, he sprang to his feet and struck Grix in a spot just below the ribs where even Corvin's stone skin was softer. The crowd fell silent. General Vexthor leaned forward in his chair. Captain Murphy smiled for the first time in weeks. The real fight was about to begin. Grix pulled his claws from the metal floor and spun around to face Jake. Pain shot through his side where the human had struck him. He had never felt anything like it before. The hit was not strong enough to break his stone-like skin, but it hurt in a way that reached deep inside his body. Jake stood a few feet away, no longer looking scared or clumsy. His breathing was steady, and his blue eyes were focused and calm. The change in him was so complete that some aliens in the crowd wondered if this was the same creature they had been watching run and stumble just moments before. "What did you do to me?" Grix growled in his deep voice. Jake did not answer. Instead, he moved to the side with smooth, controlled steps. His limp was gone, as if his injured leg had never been hurt at all. He kept his hands loose at his sides and watched Grix's every movement. General Vexthor gripped the arms of his chair. Something was wrong. The human looked different now, like a completely different creature had taken its place. But that was impossible. The medical scans had shown how weak humans were. Grix charged again, but this time Jake did not run. He waited until the last second, then stepped aside with perfect timing. As Grix's huge form rushed past him, Jake struck again. His fist hit another soft spot on the Corvin's body, and Grix stumbled forward with a grunt of pain. The crowd was silent now. No one understood what they were seeing. How could such a small, weak creature make a Corvin warrior stumble? Captain Lisa Murphy watched from the prisoner area with growing excitement. She knew what the aliens were finally seeing. Jake Morrison was not just any human soldier. He was special forces, trained in combat techniques that took years to master. What looked like weakness to alien eyes was actually careful preparation and deadly skill. Jake had spent the first part of the fight doing what humans called reconnaissance. He had studied Grix's fighting style, learned his patterns, and found his weak points. Every stumble and fall had been part of a plan. Now that he understood his enemy, Jake could fight properly. Grix turned and swung his claws in a wide arc. Jake ducked under the attack and moved forward. He hit Grix 3 times, in quick succession. Each strike aimed at pressure points that existed in most humanoid species. The Corvin's stone skin protected him from cutting damage, but it could not stop the force from reaching the sensitive spots underneath. "Impossible," Vexthor whispered. His yellow eyes were wide with shock. Jake began to move around Grix in a circle, staying just out of reach of the claws while landing quick hits whenever he saw an opening. Each strike was precise and purposeful. He was not trying to overpower the Corvin. Instead, he was slowly wearing him down, like water wearing away stone. Grix was getting frustrated and tired. He had never fought an opponent like this before. Most enemies either tried to match his strength or ran away until he caught them. This human did neither. Jake fought like he had been doing it his whole life, with a calm confidence that seemed impossible for such a small creature. The Corvin warrior tried a different approach. He grabbed a piece of broken metal from the arena floor and threw it at Jake. The human rolled to the side, and the metal crashed into the wall behind him. Grix threw another piece, then another. Jake avoided them all with movements that looked almost like dancing. "Stand still and fight," Grix roared. Jake finally spoke for the first time since the real fighting began. "I am fighting," he said quietly. "You just do not understand how." He was right. Grix had been trained to fight other large, strong opponents who met force with force. He did not know how to deal with someone who used speed, intelligence, and precision instead of raw power. Every time he tried to grab Jake, the human slipped away. Every time he swung his claws, Jake was somewhere else. But Jake was not just avoiding attacks. Each time Grix missed, Jake countered with his own strikes. Slowly but steadily, the Corvin was taking damage. His movements became less smooth, his breathing grew heavier, and his attacks lost some of their speed. The watching aliens began to murmur among themselves. This was not how fights in the arena were supposed to go. The strong opponent was supposed to defeat the weak one quickly. Instead, they were watching the weak one slowly defeat the strong one through methods they had never seen before. "General," Vexthor stood up from his chair. His 4 hands gripped the railing in front of him so tightly that the metal began to bend. "What is this human doing?" he demanded. One of his officers looked at the scanner readings from the arena floor. "Sir, the human's heart rate and stress levels are actually going down as the fight continues. It is as if he is becoming more relaxed, not less." This was true. Jake had found his rhythm now. Years of training in multiple martial arts had prepared him for exactly this situation. He knew how to fight opponents who were bigger and stronger than him. The key was patience, technique, and the willingness to take a long-term approach instead of looking for a quick victory. Grix made one more desperate charge, putting all his remaining strength into a final attack. His claws came within inches of Jake's throat. But Jake was ready. He grabbed Grix's wrist as it passed by and used the Corvin's own momentum to throw him to the ground. The arena shook as Grix's massive body hit the metal floor. He tried to get up, but Jake was already there, applying a chokehold that human fighters had perfected over centuries of combat. The technique worked by cutting off blood flow to the brain, and it was effective on most species with similar anatomy. Grix struggled for a few seconds, his claws scratching uselessly at the metal floor. Then his eyes rolled back and he went limp. He was not dead, just unconscious, but the fight was over. Jake stood up slowly and looked around the silent arena. Every alien eye was staring at him with shock and confusion. He had just defeated one of the galaxy's most feared warrior species using nothing but skill and intelligence. The silence stretched on for long seconds. Then one alien began to clap slowly. Others joined in until the entire arena was filled with applause. It was not the excited cheering from before. This was the respectful acknowledgement that warriors gave to other warriors who had proven themselves in battle. Jake looked up at General Vexthor and saw something new in the alien commander's yellow eyes. The mockery and amusement were gone. In their place was something that looked almost like fear, mixed with a grudging respect. "How?" Vexthor asked, his voice carrying through the arena's speakers. Jake wiped sweat from his forehead and looked up at the general. "My people have a saying, it is not the size of the fighter that matters. It is the size of the fight in the fighter." He gestured toward the unconscious Grix. "Your warrior is strong and brave, but he was trained to fight other, strong opponents. My people learned long ago that the strongest enemy is not always the most dangerous one. Sometimes the most dangerous enemy is the one who thinks differently." Vexthor processed this information. In all his years of conquest, he had never seen anything like what he had just witnessed. A creature that his scanner said was weak had just defeated one of the strongest species in the galaxy. "How is this possible? What are you?" he asked. Jake smiled for the first time since his capture. It was not a friendly smile. It was the smile of someone who had been underestimated his entire life and was used to proving people wrong. "I am human," he said simply. And you have no idea what that really means. Captain Murphy watched from the prisoner area and felt proud of her fellow human. The aliens were finally beginning to understand that they had made a terrible mistake in their assumptions about humanity. But this was just the beginning. The real revelations were still to come. The arena slowly emptied as confused Zephyrian soldiers talked among themselves in hushed voices. They had come expecting to see a quick execution, but instead, they had witnessed something that challenged everything they thought they knew about: strength and weakness. Medical teams carried the unconscious Grix away on a stretcher, while Jake stood alone in the center of the arena, still breathing steadily. General Vexthor made his way down from his viewing chair to the arena floor. His heavy footsteps echoed in the nearly empty space. When he reached Jake, he stopped and stared down at the human with new eyes. The mockery was gone from his expression, replaced by wariness and growing curiosity. "Guards, bring the other human." "Here," Vexthor commanded. "I want answers, and I want them now." Within minutes, Captain Lisa Murphy was escorted into the arena. Her hands were chained like Jake's had been, but she walked with confidence and pride. When she saw Jake standing unharmed next to the bloodstains where Grix had fallen, she smiled, with genuine relief. "Good work, Lieutenant," she said simply. Jake nodded back. "Thank you, Captain." Vexthor looked between the two humans. "You know each other?" "We serve in the same military," Lisa replied, "though we were on different missions when your forces captured us." "The same military," Vexthor repeated slowly. "Tell me about this military. Tell me about your people. How did that small human defeat a trained Corvan warrior?" Lisa and Jake exchanged a look. They had both been trained for first contact situations, though neither had expected it to happen quite like this. Lisa nodded slightly, giving Jake permission to speak. "What would you like to know?" Jake asked. Vexthor began pacing around them in a slow circle, his forearms moving as he thought. "My medical scanners show that humans have weak bones, thin skin, and small muscles. You have no natural weapons or armor. Your home planet has low gravity and a comfortable environment. By every measure we use to judge species, humans should be helpless in combat. Yet you just defeated one of the galaxy's premier warrior races. Explain this." Jake thought about how to begin. "General, what do your scans tell you about human endurance?" "Endurance?" Vexthor looked confused. "They show normal cardiovascular function for a low-gravity species." "Why?" "Because that is where your scans are wrong," Jake said. "Humans evolved as persistence hunters." "Do you know what that means?" Vexthor shook his head. "It means our ancestors hunted by chasing prey animals for hours or even days until the animals collapsed from exhaustion. We could not run faster than them, and we were not stronger than them. But we could run longer than anything else on our planet." Lisa picked up the explanation. "Most species are built for short bursts of power. They can run fast or fight hard for a few minutes, then they need to rest. Humans are different. We can keep going when others have to stop." "That fight lasted 20 minutes, Jake added. "Grix was getting tired after 5 minutes, but I was just getting started. If it had continued for another hour, I would have won even more easily." Vexthor processed this information. It was true that the Corvan had seemed to slow down as the fight went on, while the human had appeared to become more energetic. But there had to be more to it than just endurance. "What about your fighting techniques?" he asked. "Grix has trained his entire life for combat. Where did you learn to fight like that?" "From other humans," Jake replied. "My people have been fighting each other for thousands of years. We developed hundreds of different fighting styles and combat techniques. Some focus on strength, others on speed, and still others on using an opponent's power against them. We learned that size and strength are not everything," Lisa continued. "A small fighter who knows what he is doing can often defeat a larger opponent who relies only on power. Our training teaches us to study our enemies, find their weaknesses, and adapt our tactics accordingly." Vexthor stopped pacing. "Adapt your tactics. You make it sound simple." "It is simple for humans. Jake said. We are very good at learning new things quickly. When I was fighting Grix, I was learning about him with every attack he made. I discovered how he moved, how he thought, and how he fought. Then I changed my own fighting style to counter his strengths and exploit his weaknesses. This is standard human military doctrine, Lisa added. We train our soldiers to be flexible and creative. When they encounter a new enemy, they study that enemy and develop new tactics to defeat them. We do not rely on being stronger or tougher than our opponents. General Vexthor sat down heavily on a piece of arena equipment. His massive frame made the metal creak under his weight. For the first time in his long military career, he was beginning to understand that he might have made a serious mistake. Tell me about your pain tolerance, he said quietly. Jake looked down at his arm, where the wound from his ship crash was still visible. Humans can function with injuries that would disable many other species. We feel pain just like anyone else, but we can ignore it when we need to. Our ancestors had to keep hunting even when they were hurt, or they would starve. During the fight I was hurt several times, Jake continued. Grix hit me twice, and I pulled a muscle in my back, but I kept fighting because stopping was not an option. Many humans have this ability to push through pain and exhaustion when survival is at stake. Lisa nodded in agreement. Human history is full of stories about people who accomplished impossible things because they refused to give up. We call it determination, or willpower, or simply being stubborn. It is one of our species' greatest strengths. Vexthor was quiet, for a long time, thinking about what he had heard. Finally, he looked up at the two humans with something approaching respect in his yellow eyes. You are not what you appear to be, he said slowly. No, we are not, Lisa agreed. And that is exactly the point. Throughout human history, our enemies have made the same mistake you made. They looked at us and saw weakness. They thought we would be easy to defeat because we are not the biggest or strongest species. But they learned too late that humans are dangerous in ways that do not show up on medical scans. We are survivors, Jake added. We adapt, we endure, and we never give up. These traits served us well on our home planet, and they serve us well in space. Vexthor stood up and began pacing again. His mind was racing as he considered the implications of what he had learned. If humans were this formidable as individuals, what were they like as a species? How many of them were there? What kind of technology had they developed? What would happen if the Zephyrian Empire tried to conquer their world? How many humans are there? He asked. Billions, Lisa replied. And we have spread to dozens of worlds throughout our region of space. Your military, Vexthor said. How large is it? Jake and Lisa exchanged another look. They had both been wondering when this question would come up. Large enough, Jake said carefully. And growing larger every day. We have been monitoring galactic communications for several years, Lisa added. We know about the Zephyrian Empire and your expansion policies. We have been preparing. Vexthor felt a chill run down his spine. The humans had been watching them for years, while the Empire had been completely unaware that humans even existed. What kind of preparations? He asked, though he was not sure he wanted to know the answer. Lisa smiled, but it was not a friendly expression. The kind that ensure our survival, General, just like everything else humans do. For the first time in his military career, General Vexthor began to wonder if he had encountered an enemy that the mighty Zephyrian Empire might not be able to defeat. General Vexthor stood in his private command chamber, staring out at the stars through a massive window. 3 hours had passed since the arena fight, and his mind was still processing everything he had learned about humans. The two prisoners sat across from him at a metal table, their chains removed as a sign of respect. The chamber was decorated with trophies from Vexthor's many conquests. Weapons, banners, and artifacts from dozens of defeated worlds lined the walls. But now, looking at these symbols of his victories, the general felt uncertain for the first time in years. I have a decision to make, he said finally, turning away from the window. My original plan was to return to the High Command and recommend your species for immediate conquest. Your world would be invaded within 6 months. Jake and Lisa remained calm, though both understood the seriousness of what Vexthor was saying. The fate of Earth and all humanity might depend on what happened in this room. But now I am not sure that would be wise. Vexthor continued. Tell me honestly, what would happen if the Empire tried to conquer Earth? Lisa answered first. It would be the biggest mistake in Zephyrian history. Explain. Jake leaned forward slightly. General, you have seen what one injured human can do when he is motivated to survive. Imagine what billions of humans would do when their entire species was threatened. Your people are strong warriors, Lisa added. But you are used to fighting other strong species who meet you in direct battle. Humans do not fight that way. We use guerrilla tactics, sabotage, and psychological warfare. We turn our enemies' strengths against them. Vexthor nodded slowly. Go on. Human history is full of examples, Jake continued. Small groups of humans have defeated much larger, stronger armies by refusing to fight on their enemies' terms. We hide. We strike when least expected, and we make every victory cost more than it is worth. Plus, humans are very good at working together when we face a common threat, Lisa said. All our differences and conflicts disappear when we need to unite against an outside enemy. An invasion would not divide us, it would make us stronger. Vexthor walked over to his desk and activated a holographic display. Images of various alien worlds appeared in the air, showing the Empire's previous conquests. Every species we have defeated tried to convince us they were too dangerous to fight, he said. They all claimed they would resist. Most fell within weeks. Most of them were probably telling the truth about their intentions, Jake replied. But they lacked the tools to make their resistance effective. Humans have advantages that other species do not. Such as? Lisa stood up and moved closer to the holographic display. May I? Vexthor gestured for her to proceed. Lisa began manipulating the controls with surprising skill, quickly learning how to operate the alien technology. This is exactly what I mean, she said as she worked. It took me less than 5 minutes to figure out how to use your systems. Humans are extremely adaptable. We learn new technologies quickly and find ways to improve them. The display changed to show technical specifications for Zephyrian weapons and ships. Lisa studied them for a moment, then pointed to several areas. These designs are impressive, but they have weaknesses, she said. Your energy weapons are powerful, but they overheat quickly. Your ships are heavily armored, but not very maneuverable. Your communication systems use encryption that our computers could probably break in a few days. Vexthor stared at the display in shock. Lisa had identified real vulnerabilities in Zephyrian military technology just by looking at the specifications. For a few minutes, how is this possible? He asked. Because humans think differently than most species, Jake explained. We do not just look at how things work. We look at how they could work better, or how they could be used in ways their designers never intended. During our wars on Earth, we constantly adapted our enemies' weapons and tactics, Lisa continued. We would capture their equipment, study it, improve it, and use it against them. We are very good at taking other people's advantages and making them our own. Vexthor felt a growing sense of unease. If humans could analyze Zephyrian technology this quickly, what would they do with months or years to prepare for an invasion? How many Zephyrian weaknesses would they find and exploit? There is another factor to consider, Jake said quietly. Humans are motivated by more than just survival. We fight hardest when we are protecting something we care about. Family, Lisa added. Home, freedom, the right to live our lives the way we choose. These things mean everything to humans. We will die for them without hesitation. And when humans are willing to die for something, we become extremely dangerous, Jake continued. We will take risks that other species would never consider. We will sacrifice ourselves to hurt our enemies. We will fight until our last breath, and sometimes beyond. Vexthor was beginning to understand the true scope of what an invasion of Earth would mean. It would not be a quick conquest followed by peaceful occupation. It would be a long, bloody war against an enemy that refused to accept defeat. How many Zephyrians would die in such a war? He asked. Millions, Lisa replied without hesitation. Maybe billions. Even if you eventually won, the cost would be enormous. And you might not win at all, Jake added. Humans have a saying, you can kill the body, but you cannot kill an idea. The idea of human freedom would survive even if our worlds were destroyed. Somewhere, somehow, humans would continue to resist. General Vexthor sat down heavily in his chair. Everything he had believed about conquest and warfare was being challenged. For the first time, he was facing an enemy that might actually be too dangerous to fight. What do you propose instead? He asked. Jake and Lisa exchanged a meaningful look. This was the moment they had been building toward. Alliance, Lisa said simply. Partnership, Jake added. Cooperation instead of conquest. Vexthor looked skeptical. What could humans offer the Empire that we could not take by force? Innovation, Lisa replied immediately. You have seen how quickly we adapt and learn. Imagine what we could accomplish, working together instead of fighting each other. Jake stood up and moved to the holographic display. Your technology is impressive, but it could be better. Human creativity combined with Zephyrian engineering could produce amazing results. We could help you solve problems that pure strength cannot handle, Lisa continued. There must be challenges in the galaxy that even the mighty Zephyrian Empire struggles with. Vexthor thought about this. There were indeed problems that military force could not solve. Rebellious populations that would not stay conquered. Technical challenges that required new approaches. Diplomatic situations that needed creative solutions. And what would humans gain from such an alliance? He asked. Safety, Jake replied. Knowledge, the chance to explore the galaxy as partners rather than prey. Plus, we would rather have the Zephyrian Empire as friends than enemies, Lisa added. Your people are strong and honorable. We could learn much from each other. Vexthor was quiet, for a long time, considering all the implications. Finally, he made his decision. I will send a message to the High Command, he said. I will recommend that Earth be offered alliance rather than conquest. I will tell them that humans are too valuable as partners and too dangerous as enemies. Jake and Lisa both smiled with relief. But first, Vexthor continued, I will escort you back to your home system for formal diplomatic contact. Your leaders and mine need to meet and discuss the terms of this partnership. That would be acceptable, Lisa said formally, as Vexthor began composing his message to the High Command. He reflected on how much his understanding had changed in just one day. He had learned that true strength came in many forms, and that the most dangerous enemies were often those who appeared weakest at first glance. The humans had taught him that evolution's greatest achievement was not the strongest body, but the yet most adaptable mind. And perhaps most importantly, they had shown him that respect, once earned, could transform enemies into the strongest of allies. The message sent, Vexthor looked out at the stars once more. Tomorrow would bring new challenges and opportunities, but for the first time in his military career, he looked forward to facing them not through conquest, but through cooperation with a species that had proven themselves worthy of respect. The galaxy was about to change, and General Vexthor was proud to be part of that change.